Marge whirled around. Her elbow brushed against the wet paint on the nearly completed watercolor. Grabbing the easel to keep it from falling, she stared at the radio. "Details will follow as they become available," intoned a studied female voice. A dead body? One of Bellevue's rare murders? Marge took a deep breath and said a silent prayer for the victim's family. Turning back to the easel, she gripped her paintbrush and frowned at the watercolor. The brush paused. If it was murder, will Pete be the investigator? Detective Pete Peterson was supposed to walk down the aisle beside her in 2 weeks. They were spending the intervening time shopping for a house to move into after the wedding. Would he have time for that if he had to investigate a murder? Marge shook her head. How could she be concerned about wedding preparations when someone was dealing with such a tragedy? She dropped the brush on the table and ran her fingers through her rampant auburn curls. She had lost concentration. Her mind was in turmoil. Why? It had nothing to do with her. Even if it was murder, Marge hadn't discovered the body, as had happened in the past. Unable to shake the anxiety, she grabbed the phone and hit the first auto-dial number her finger found. 2 weeks. Marge struggled to keep her voice from rising as her daughter Kate listened. It's only 2 weeks before the wedding. We haven't even found a house yet. How is Pete going to have any time now if the person who died... Whoa, Mom! Someone died? Murdered? Is it anyone we know? No. Well, I don't know. I certainly hope not. A breaking news announcement on the radio said a dead body was found, and the story would follow as soon as they had more details. If it is a murder, how will Pete be able to think about our wedding? Now, Mom, Kate's reasoning voice came across the line. You don't know it's murder. If it is, Pete might not be in charge of the case. And if it is a murder and Pete gets the case, in 2 weeks, the murderer will probably be behind bars and everything will go on as planned. Besides, if Pete is busy, the rest of us will simply pitch in as needed. At worst, you might have to squeeze the two of you into your apartment for a while and find your dream house later. None of that sounds like doomsday to me. I have this awful feeling, Marge said, her fingers trembling as she poured hot water over a bag of calming herbal tea. It has nothing to do with me, so it doesn't make sense to think I will be involved. But I can't help thinking I will be. I don't know how Pete would react to my interfering in another one of his cases. Marge shook her head to rid it of a fleeting sense of escape, triggered by the thought that Pete might not be able to handle it, might even call off the wedding. It had taken her a long time to decide she could give up her independence and marry Pete. She didn't need any pre-wedding jitters to meddle with her mind. Mom, you had reasons to get involved in Pete's cases before. This one doesn't concern you. Anyway, don't you think you're being a little hard on Pete? He loves you. Anybody can see that. He gave you credit for your insight in those murders. If this case is assigned to him, and for some reason you do get involved, I don't believe his ego is so overdeveloped that he would be put off by you finding out something he didn't. Again, Marge finished the thought. She thanked God for the wisdom he had endowed on her lawyer daughter, at least when it involved other people's lives. Thank you, Kate. That's the common sense I needed to hear right now. Hanging up the phone, Marge cupped the mug of tea in her hands and stepped onto the small deck off the living area, hoping the sight of the multiple shades of green that blanketed Kelsey Creek Park on an early summer day would help calm her nerves. She had been relieved when summer actually arrived on schedule this year. Planning the wedding for late June had been a risk, since sunny weather in western Washington frequently waited until the 4th of July to arrive. She hadn't known when they set the date that the weather would be the least of her worries.